I'm Carly Kramer, and I am the founder of Beekeepers Naturals. And I'm very excited today because we have my doctor, Dr. Melissa Clark, who was my doctor as I was approaching the trying to get pregnant phase, and my doctor all through my pregnancy and has supported me through my postpartum journey. She's such a wonderful resource. And we are here today to talk about Beekeepers Naturals products, stress, women's health, menopause, fertility, all of the things. So Dr. Melissa Clark, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you, Carly. I'm so happy to be here. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Melissa Clark. I'm a licensed naturopathic doctor in Arizona. My area of focus and specialty is within the world of endocrinology, which is every organ in our body that makes or produces a hormone. So things like our thyroid, ovaries or testes, pancreas, our adrenal glands, a lot of which tie into stress, a lot of which is becoming more and more important in the world that we live in today. So I love what I get to do every day, and I'm so happy to be here to chat about it.
Amazing. So let's talk about stress for a second. Okay. Stress is affecting everyone. We're living in a hyper-stressed culture. We're seeing women really affected by stress. So can you start off by telling me what is cortisol and how does it affect the body?
Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you for starting there because I think there's a bit of misinformation out there and perhaps a little bit of fear surrounding cortisol. She's not all bad, I like to say, but she's also not all good. There's a reason why we produce a specific amount of it. So cortisol is one of our hormones that our body produces. It's produced from our adrenal glands. Our adrenal glands sit on top of our kidneys and our back, and they're really known for being kind of the key player within our autonomic nervous system. So our autonomic nervous system is different than our central nervous system, which composes our brain and spinal cord. That's all our thinking and feeling. The autonomic nervous system really helps regulate more of our emotional piece, which both of us have experienced at different times of our life, times where you're excited, anxious, fear, worry. A lot of that ties into that autonomic piece. So cortisol is really the key hormone that's part of the sympathetic division of that autonomic nervous system. So we have two main divisions: the sympathetic nervous system, which is that very cortisol driven, that fight or flight response that I think people are more familiar with, and the parasympathetic division, which is more of that rest and digest piece.
So cortisol is our switched on high energy fight or flight. Parasympathetic is the calm, chill aspect of us.
Exactly. And they're always active, just in varying levels throughout the day. So we need both of them. They're very important for life. They're part of why you and I are here today. Without that cortisol response, we wouldn't have run from predators way back with our ancestors. So we're grateful for that signal. However, an overproduction of it can be really harmful for our health. So initially what happens when we go through some sort of stress, let's say, our brain, that area of our brain called the amygdala, will sense fear and stress. That then relays information down to those adrenal glands that prompt production of cortisol. That initial acute phase of stress where that cortisol is produced is really meaning to help us, again, run away from that bear. Unfortunately, our brain and our adrenal glands don't know the difference between an argument with a loved one or actually running from a bear. The response is still the same. So that cortisol production is intended to help increase blood flow to our muscles, get substrates available, so things like glucose, things from our muscles, fatty acids, so that we have that fuel to run away if needed. And it also initially can actually help suppress inflammation so that our immune system doesn't go into overdrive. The key word is that initially that's what happens. Long-term, different story, but really helpful in that acute phase where cortisol comes into play, and something, again, very necessary for life.
So cortisol is stress, and it's important to give our body signals for when we're unsafe, but we're kind of living in a state today where we're chronically seeing these we're unsafe signals. And we are safe, and there isn't the tiger around the corner, and that overstress, that heightened cortisol is causing damage to the rest of our organs.
Yes, absolutely.
So we know that stress, heightened cortisol can be really damaging. How does it affect things like anxiety, sleep, bloating, a lot of these sort of symptoms that people are struggling with today?
Yeah, absolutely. Since cortisol is one of the key components of that sympathetic nervous system, again, that fight or flight response, it really can activate anxiety. It can create this sense of worry and overthinking just because it is naturally a stimulant. Again, it's trying to help us get away from whatever is activating it. Again, we don't know the difference between actually having to run from something and or just having something stressful happen at work. So it's intended to be beneficial, but longer term, that sympathetic overdrive, just meaning that cortisol really pushing that sympathetic nervous system, takes away from our ability to really relax and rest and digest what the parasympathetic nervous system does. And with that, it really can affect our digestion. And I think we're coming to learn more and more about our digestive health and its effect on our mental health and vice versa. And that cortisol, because we shift from that acute phase where, again, initially it can be anti-inflammatory, that cortisol receptor kind of gets tired of sensing cortisol. It starts ignoring it, if you will. And then we switch to it activating a different part and also having just a different mechanism of action where it becomes pro-inflammatory. And that inflammation really causes a lot of damage in a variety of areas, our brain included, which is part of why we think long-term higher cortisol can contribute to mental health issues like anxiety. And in the digestive area, really that pro-inflammatory signal can create more of a leaky gut picture where essentially we're breaking apart that intestinal barrier. We're allowing larger particles of food to pass through an area that it's never passed through before. And our immune system is there to sample different products that are coming through our digestion to ensure it's safe or unsafe, activate a response if needed. And anytime it sees something new, especially something as large as a food particle that shouldn't have gotten through, that then furthers the inflammatory signal. So it's just kind of this ongoing cyclical pattern. And that's where really honing in on anti-inflammatory things via diet and lifestyle and supplementation can be so beneficial in a higher stress, higher cortisol state.
So if we address stress and we also address holistic inflammation, we can help to decrease these symptoms from bloating and digestive issues to anxiety and sleep challenges. So it's really important that we kind of get a lock on our cortisol.
Absolutely.
And I know as one of your patients, but for everyone else listening, what are some of your favorite ways, best practices for helping people manage cortisol?
As a naturopathic doctor, I always like to start with the foundations of health. So thinking about things like what we're putting into our body fuel-wise via our diet, lifestyle, what aspects of movement do we have in our day-to-day life? And I say movement because it doesn't always have to be formal exercise. Just movement alone is extremely helpful for offloading some of that anxious energy that sympathetic nervous system can cause. And then where we may fall short in those different areas is really where supplementation can come in. So from the foundational piece, diet-wise, a more anti-inflammatory diet, so excluding things like higher sugar content foods, ensuring we're getting a good quality protein, so when possible, wild-caught fish, grass-fed, grass-finished, organic beef, those sorts of things for those that are having animal-based meals. And then also from a vegetable standpoint, diversifying that so we're getting good nutrients from all different sources. And then that can also shift into the lifestyle piece of movement. So that daily movement can be really helpful for, again, offloading some of that sympathetic drive so that we can kind of balance out that sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system activity. And again, where we fall short is really where I love and lean on supplementation. And what I look for patients as an ingredient for a supplement is actually ashwagandha, which I think people are learning more and more about. Ashwagandha is a really unique mechanism of action for helping address and lowering cortisol levels. So it's something that we know of as an HPA modulator. HPA stands for hypothalamic pituitary axis, a fancy way of saying a way in which our brain speaks to our adrenal glands. And it can modulate that activity. Because in a state of chronic stress and high cortisol, the signaling that should have shut that repeat pattern and that feedback mechanism off has stopped working. Normally, when our brain initially senses stress and we release some cortisol, once that cortisol elevates in the bloodstream, the brain stops the process, it's satisfied with the response, things calm down. In a state of chronic stress, that negative feedback is lost, and that high cortisol causes more cortisol and more cortisol. And
then that's the inflammation, and all of a sudden everything's out of whack.
Exactly. And that's really what ashwagandha can help address and work on, is modulating that activity. And we say the word modulate because it doesn't always just suppress, because for some individuals, they're actually under secreting cortisol. And so ashwagandha in other states, when someone has maybe gone through extensive trauma in their life where they were so high cortisol for so long, and I like to think of it as their adrenal glands took a little vacation and now they're under secreting, that ashwagandha can be really supportive for prompting a proper response. Because while cortisol is a stress hormone, it's also a wakefulness hormone. So really helpful for getting us up and going in the morning. And so that's where that ashwagandha can be really beautiful in either of those scenarios.
It's really cool. So we need cortisol, but not too much of it.
Exactly.
And ashwagandha is an adaptogen. So it's adapting to our individual body's needs and helping us to create the right amount for our system. So if we're overproducing cortisol, it helps to kind of support us and allow us to pare it down. And if we're underproducing, it helps us to get where we need to go. So do you think ashwagandha is something that most people living a high stress life today should just be incorporating?
Absolutely. There is wonderful research that has supported the use of ashwagandha. In medicine, we really look for placebo-controlled trials, just meaning we compared it to a sugar pill, because sometimes sugar pills can be helpful too, because the act of taking something can also be
placebo
supportive.
Effect is real.
Yeah, we love placebo effect. Sometimes it's wonderful. And so with that research, I feel more and more confident recommending it to patients. And clinically, I see improvements too, because research is wonderful, but it's still only one aspect of patient care. I want to know that my patients are noticing a difference, getting better quality sleep, feeling like they can get through their day more easily. You know, they're on and active when they should be, and their brain's quiet and restorative when it needs to be as well.
Okay, so balanced diet, trying to be low sugar, low inflammation.
Yes.
Movement, which is one of my tools in a big way. Ashwagandha, which is another one of my tools. What else is in your toolkit for managing cortisol, supporting anxiety, sleep, all of the things?
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I lean on that I really love is L-Theanine, actually. And part of that relates to its ability to help support something called GABA. So L-Theanine is a naturally found compound in things like green tea. It's part of what can combat that jittery sensation of caffeine.
Is that why green tea doesn't get me all jittery, but coffee does?
Yes, exactly. We can thank L-Theanine. So next time you have some coffee, you can take some L-Theanine as a supportive agent. That L-Theanine is thought to help support gamma aminobutyric acid. And that is part of our brain. It's a neurotransmitter, meaning it helps with cell-to-cell signaling, but it's a quieter one. I like to think she quiets the noise. So she is what we need to be active to help calm our brain in times of stress, and especially when we're sleeping, because I know for many of us, myself included, she turns on like a light bulb as soon as my head hits the pillow. And so having something that can help support turning that dial down so we can get that restorative sleep is wonderful. And L-Theanine is one of those tools, again, shown in research to be effective, and clinically I've seen it be really wonderful for patients.
Something I really like about L-Theanine, and you had me when I was not sleeping and struggling and all of the things, when I was really not sleeping and couldn't turn my brain off at night, you suggested L-Theanine, but you didn't tell me to take it before bed. You told me to take it in the day, and I started doing that. And I was really nervous at first because I was like, is this going to make me drowsy? I don't want to go to sleep in the day. But you assured me that it was fine. And now I'm taking L-Theanine in the day, and I find that it helps. It doesn't make me drowsy at all. It helps me stay calm, but then it's helping me get to bed. So how does it do that? How does it not knock you out in the day, but still have that calmative effect and then support sleep later on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's different in our response to different agents, but that L-Theanine, because of the way it helps with supporting that GABA, which again is that inhibitory neurotransmitter, it helps balance out you throughout the day. So normally your brain's a little bit more active. We have something called acetylcholine, which is more of an active ingredient within our brain, an active neurotransmitter that's kind of keeping things firing. Then if we add in something that also can add in or touch up that GABA, meaning through the L-Theanine, we can balance out what would have otherwise maybe been an overdrive of that acetylcholine. So it's a really nice balancing agent and tends to not be a drowsy one, whereas we think of Benadryl, for example, something that we know for most of us can really cause us to be drowsy. So it's really nice that it has the ability to kind of touch those receptors that GABA works on without overpowering them and really locking in.
Amazing. And how does stress affect our immune system? We all know that when
Mhm.
you're under stress, everything stops working as well, and it's a
Mhm.
time where you become really vulnerable to different illnesses. So, what's actually happening in our bodies when we're stressed, and why
Yeah.
do we become so susceptible to illness?
Initially, that acute secretion of cortisol is actually helpful in getting our immune system to respond to an illness. But again, that switches in a more chronic state where we're now creating a pro-inflammatory environment. And initially, again, that inflammation helps recruit immune cells to an area, whether we're fighting off a bacteria or viral infection. It's calling cells to that space. But that ongoing inflammation can really worsen our immune system function because we've almost overactivated it. And it's kind of like the immune cells aren't in the right environment to respond as well as they would have otherwise. And really, that pro inflammatory environment, longer term, worsens that immune system function, which is why when we're stressed, we tend to get sick and it tends to take longer to get over it. And so, for example, patients I have that are in a high stress career, going through school, graduate program, whatever it may be, adding in something that can be anti-inflammatory and support for the immune system can be really wonderful as a preventative agent because the stress is coming. We're all going to experience it. We can't live in a bubble or on a beach full time. And if you do, I love you for that. But we need to have other things that we can lean on in times of stress so that we don't fall susceptible to those illnesses and or for a long period of time because we have things to do. You're a busy mom, you've got a wonderful baby to nurse, you have a business to run. And so when we're out, but we'd like to not be out for too long.
Love that.